how much of a compliment is that to a set of IMs where you forget about critiquing the gear and you're just listening to music? Isn't that the idea of why we're buying this, period? All right, I'm back. So here is my configuration that I ended up with. Um, so I ended up with Osla medium large crystal tips, and I'll explain why. And I ended up using a tri metal palladium silver gold mix on the cable in 4.4 with the Hokugi cable as well. So just to go over some of these things, and I don't do unboxings, but I will shout out to Penon, and I think you did a smashing job. Case is gorgeous and functional. Otherwise, I'd put a hate on you for that one. Cables, gorgeous, soft, flexible, pairs well. Comes in 3.5, comes in 2.5, and comes in 4.4. Your choice. So another huge thumbs up for Penon doing it right. My only little critique is they put the extended pins when they probably should have put a regular 2-pin. This one doesn't made up to the shell that doesn't have a recessed slot, I guess, into the shell itself. The shells themselves are beautiful. They're gorgeous. They are resin that is semi-transparent. You can kind of see it through it and to the drivers. Each one has either a little blue or a red indicator, which is a very nice touch. The nozzle has a stainless steel nozzle as well, and again, really quality. So on fit and finish note, I had a hard time fitting these because the nozzles are really short. This shell shape is pretty chonky. It's pretty big, so it sticks out of gear quite a bit, and the nozzles are quite short. So I had to use a really and until I did that, it had no base. So I had to use a really sticky ear tip in order to get it in there. So for me, it wasn't the most comfortable, and it was really, I needed to get the right tip. So if you don't have a bunch of tips and you're just relying of what's in the box, you might not get the sound you're expecting. So moving on to sound and impressions, I knew what I was getting myself into. This is not my first Penon. I had a Penon Globe, which I adored. I really did. I thought the vocals were the best I've ever heard. My only issue with that one, it was so dark. It was very dark. The trebles are very, I wouldn't say they're relaxed in the fact more they are muted. And it made it for that particular tuning. You hear about house sounds and how IEMs or brands like to tune their things. I think the globe, then there's the globe, there's the fan, the serial, the vortex, the But they all seem to have a very similar tonality in the mid range, is where these are coming to play. So I think my video will be called A Vocal Drug, because in a nutshell, that's what these do extremely well. I was originally going to name this video like a drug named Lippenzahler, which would have been those superly high trained show horses that do more than one thing. But I think the Penon cereal does really one thing only well. That's not a knock against the Penon cereal. In the fact that quite the opposite. It should be applauded. So straight up, if you're looking and you prefer bassier, darker treble, you will and vocals, you love vocals, you are going to fall in love with this IEM, and you're never going to take it out of your ears. I got up early every day since I got it, just so I can spend more time with these uninterrupted in a quiet space. They're that good for chill, for sure. I am going to go through more of the tracks, my test tracks, and my impressions for there. And remember, when I do that, that's the super analytical. That's not my overall impressions of this IM. It is what I hear per song and what this is doing well. At the end of the video, I like to do a little comparison to my SimGot EA 500s and a pair of KZ ZVXs, just for shits and giggles, just to give you an overall idea of what this sounds like. So overall sound impressions, just very warm, very vocal centric IM, and they tune it in a way that the words like organic, musical, engaging for its vocals are all natural vocals, is what comes to mind when I think and I pick up the serial. So once I got the fit issues down, and because it really did make a big difference in bass. Also, this thing really does love power. So I think if you want to pick up a set of serials, I don't know if you would be able to drive this on your phone properly. I don't think so. I think you would need definitely a higher power dongle or a DAP or desktop in order to get what these things deserve out of it. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Don't just throw it on your phone with the 3.5 and expect it to sound wonderful, because I don't think you'll get that out of it without throwing it some juice. So all of the vocals I pretty much wrote perfect. When I'm listening to this, I am. And that's not to... When I went to A, B, C, D, different IMs, then you can pick out more of the tonality. But if you were just critical listening to this, I have the same problem I had with the 64 Audio U12T. The problem was it is so fun and musical to listen to that you have a hard time trying to critique every single song on your playlist, because you just really zone out, and you know, how much of a compliment is that to a set of IMs where you forget about critiquing the gear and you're just listening to music? Isn't that the idea of why we're buying this, period? So first two tracks are very vocal centric. Holly McNarlin, female vocals. Tracy Chapman, second one, and I'm listening to guitar and I'm listening to vocals. And they're both perfect with big smiley faces on my notes. Paradox by MEB, perfect note weight to voice, very nice weight to the hits of the bass. Rock Me, Great White, and I wrote, I think the serial is made for this. So 80s rock, there you go. Perfect with enough hi-hats, punchy bass on this track, but I wish it had more highs. So Wheat Kings, so smooth, just plain musical. You're in a small club. Instruments were fantastic. Chemical Mentalist by Crystal Method. So EDM, thump, oh yes, it does go low. Because that song does have some nice bass drops. It's Time, Labyrinth, Sia, Deep Low, so powerful. I wrote a note. This was the loudest I have ever played this track. Because if you typically play this track on IEMs and it's not smooth, it is not fun to listen to. And that's why I chose it. Piano was perfect on this one. All my friends are here. Joe Satriani, so guitar. The descending A major was very well done. So it does the guitar really well. Talking about now a little bit into you get a sense of its staging. So this one has super left, right, and center. That is the way he recorded it to give you a sense of depth and energy, and it didn't do it well. But it did it well enough to get you the theme of that song. All right. Again, all these impressions per track is really trying to pick this apart. Antidote is in the Poison. Go-Go Penguins. Bass is fat and textured. And I was now getting a sense of its bass tonality. Angel by Massive Attack. Here you can hear the double hit. Nice droning bass with texture. Doesn't go terribly low. But as soon as the vocals come on, you forget everything else and you're focused on the vocals. And the bass is secondary, which, again, that's pretty good. But this track is really about the bass, and it did it okay. Bring Me Some Water, Melissa Etheridge. Again, female vocals. Vocals perfect. Guitar sounds great. Next one, Andy Lennox, Whiter Shade of Pale. This one has a huge left and right panning, and it didn't do it well. So again, getting a sense of its stage, but vocals were so perfect. So Cold, Holly McNarlin goes low, but sub bass is very lean. Leaner in volume than it probably should be, and that just has the tuning to do with the tuning of the serial, and not so much depth. And the stage was one stage left and right. That was all. Shape of My Heart from Sting, so you know he's got a really pretty unique voice. All vocals here were done in a really good way, in a colored way. So now I'm getting a really good sense of how it does vocal presentations. I thought the guitar plucks, needed more pluck. And the coloration was done in a good way that just makes it musical. The serial is in no way unbashfully not neutral, and it colors in a way that you either love it or hate it. You Wishing You Would Stay, Tea Party, Holly McNarlin. One of the best replays I have ever heard in this duet, with male vocals and then Holly McNarlin coming in later. She wasn't washed out. She was equal, and that's a hard one to do on this track, and the serial did it very well. Avenue A, Tom Cochrane, Red Rider live from the Symphony Sessions. Love this one. I love my live recordings. Guitar sounded great. Very intimate club, not a concert, where it if you know this track, you should sound like you're in a big venue again, and it sounded like you were more of an intimate club, and you were sitting down and you had your drinks in front of you and you were just chilling. So, Eden by Hani Arani. This is the lady who plays the piano and the very unique way she does her mics with the on the keys and then on the strings in behind the piano. This is probably one of the best I have ever heard on an IM, except for the 64 Audio U12T, which was 10 times its price. It goes low in this track as well, but again, not bass head level. Summertime, Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald. Trumpets are good, not great, but the vocals are wow. Both Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald play properly that I heard when I was listening to these tracks. Blue Train, Poncho Sanchez. So here's some unique Latin jazz. Trumpets are very good, super fun and musical. All instruments, instrumental on this track. The instrument playbacks was mental on the instruments. Instrumental mental. There you go. My Girl, Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. I listened to this one to get a sense of dynamics. How is it going to go from the lowest of the lows, the low volumes, up to the higher volumes and dynamics. Macro was pretty, actually was great, actually, I said this one, but there's not much depth. It was, in this track, you also get a sense of where bass goes from right to left, and it should be coming closer to you as it goes from right to left, and it doesn't very much. There's a bit, but not much. So the depth of the stage is very, very small. Iconic Alanis Morissette again. Anything with vocals, I could just basically skip anything with vocals in it and tell you it was done perfectly with female and male. Metallica, so this is the one from Live, The Day That Never Comes. San Francisco Orchestra from S&M 2. Should be a massive recording venue. Again, Lars playing in the center. Orchestra all the way around. You don't really get that. Very, again, intimate stage. You're playing in a small club versus a massive venue. Tricycle by Flim and the BBs. Weighty Slam. It's just not the fastest. So, Lord, again, vocals, blah, blah, blah. No stage. Wake Up, Oliver Manzuki, vocals again, so engaging. Brothers in Arms, thumpy bass. It has more thumpy bass than fast hits. And then I knew at that point, 26 tracks in, of exactly how the Penon serial sounds. Keith Don't Go, live version by Niels Lofgren. Here he is playing his guitar, and you can tell that his guitar is either lying down flat, and there's a mic right on top of it, and then another mic with his vocals. It is missing in the sharpness of the guitar. His vocals are amazing, but the sharpness, so the guitar itself, is missing that proper twang. Somebody I used to know, Goat Kimba, huge stage and vocals. Listen for excellent separation stage. Again, it's vocals. As for stage, not so much, nor microdynamics. Flight of the Cosmic Hippo by Bella Fleck, so modern jazz. Here again, you can tell that the serial has more fat and meaty bass versus snappy bass with nicer decay. So let's finish up this, and then we'll go over the overall, everything else. New Orleans Sinking tragically played it perfectly. Electrified 2 by Yellow, so some more EDM. This one, you're missing the top end to make it electrified, so it really wasn't electrified at all. Didn't do this track well. Same as the next one by EDM, it's called Fever by Malia and Boris Blank. Again, the vocals are just so enchanting, but it's just missing the upper end frequencies to give it the excitement. Poem of Chinese Drum by Hawkman Kim. I didn't go through the entire 10 minutes, but I have on certain ones. On the 64 audio, I listened to it like 4 times. That was 40 minutes of drum pounding. Here I could only do a few minutes of it because the bass of the serial is more boomy than it is speed, and I not a knock against the serial. That's just the way it presents, and if you like bass like that. Anyway, almost done here. Song of the Stars by Dead Can Dance. The bass line at the beginning, again, should go really low, and it should tingle your ears, and it doesn't. It just tells me that the serial doesn't do super sub bass, more mid bass, like 80 hertz and up. Yeah. Don't Make Me Wait, Sting Shaggy. Again, Thumpy versus Slam. Vocals are perfect. So really, in a super nutshell, if we were talking about now, how does the Penon serial sound in breaking it down? Sub bass, it is there when the tracks have sub bass, but it doesn't have huge sub bass. It doesn't go to the lowest octaves. It'll get down there, but it won't get down there with volume to make you a bass head lover. And that's kind of funny because one of the notes that in the community that I got feedback from before I picked up the serial was there are lovers of this bass that the serial puts out. Like some people believe this is the end all of be all of bass reproduction, and if you love this kind of bass, you should also look at a Yanyan Cannon, because that also has similar bass to this, where it, instead of being my EJ07Ms, even the SimGod EA500s, KZ ZVX, I think some of the other sets that I gravitate toward are my kind of preferred tuning bass, where it is low but still has attack speed and a bit of decay where it doesn't bleed into the mid bass. Where if I'm talking about the bass overall of the serial, it is more meaty, thick, and doesn't have a very fast decay. It's more thumpy bass than it is fast, speedy attack bass with attack and release. So that does something to instruments, where like Keith Don't Go, Niels Lofgren, where the guitars and this all plays back into the Penon house sound, where it's really about the incredible vocals. So mid bass, not the speediest, again, and it probably adds a little bit too much note weight. Now here's where, from the individual tracks, breaking it down to comparisons, where you start going, oh yeah, okay, that kind of makes sense. Where on individual, when you're just listening to this, the vocals sound absolutely amazing. It's probably the absolute best IEM I've ever heard for just listening to vocals, just relaxing and chilling out, and nothing's going to pull you away. The sub bass wouldn't pull you away. The technicals wouldn't pull you away. The extra high frequencies aren't going to pull you away from the vocals. You're just going to sit back and just be enveloped in a organic musical vocal presence. That was long words. So in lower mids, again, probably a little bit too much note weight for female vocals compared to other IMs, where you go, okay, well, this sounded absolutely smashing. Female vocals were so, Ella Fitzgerald was just so awesome. And then you listen to some other IMs and you go, I think maybe this actually has too much mid bass and it's coloring, but in a good way, female vocals. Where male vocals, again, loves that extra lower huskiness. So if I were to rate this after doing comparisons, this would be a 10 out of 10 for male vocals and probably a 8 out of 10 on female vocals. So, and then it gets into the upper frequencies, is very relaxed. There's absolutely not a chance of sibilance or any of that, and that is partly one of the problems I find with the serial. You just turn it up so much. It just can go so loud because there's nothing there to make you want to turn it down. In fact, the bass starts getting even more presence, and not, again, I would not call the serial a bass head for my liking, but if you love that kind of style of bass, then it may be. But definitely not a treble head. I am for sure. It's too relaxed on the top end for that. Not nearly as much as the Penon Globe, but in a way that, again, more focusing on. With the serial, I didn't find that I was like, I wish I had way more highs here. It didn't do that because you were so engaged in the vocal presentation. If you were just listening to instrumental, then I don't think you would enjoy these. I don't think at all, just because you'd be missing so much of that and the hi-hats and the cymbals and the instruments that wouldn't sound correct. So again, I think this would be, the Penon serial would be more of an IEM for certain genres. And again, it would have to be more vocal based than it would be instrumental based. And don't be too critiquing on some of the other things, because then you'll knock what the specialness of the globe or of the serial does. So if we just talk, so that's really overall for the tone of the serial. If I were to talk technicalities, I'll be brief. Because it has the more relaxed high end, you're not going to get that again. It's not to be expected. And so when that affects a bunch of things: instruments, correct tonality, stage, depth, width, height, 3D spatial effects, instrument separation. All of that comes from the higher frequencies, and when you mute it down a bit, you lose some of that detailing, and that's not the serial's strong suit for sure. So stage is very intimate, not much width, depth. It's when you say intimate, it's pretty, self-explanatory for a stage. And again, that kind of same as the technicalities, right? I mean, if it had more high frequencies, it would take away from here, and that wasn't their intended tuning. And Penon, when they tuned the serial, they did it exactly the way they wanted it, and that's why I'm sharing my impressions with you, for you to determine whether these would be for you. If you like faster, snappier bass, you're not going to like the cereal. If you like a lot of really high frequencies and more stage, more separation, more instrument separation, you probably won't like the cereal either. If you like smoky, organic vocals in an intimate stage that you can just put in your ears, chillax, turn it up, this would be for you for sure, right? So that's overall the sound I thought of the Penon cereal. I really did enjoy it very much, and so I also use my Hibby R6 third gen to use the Magic 8 Ball EQ. It really is magic. You can adjust very easily the overall tonality of the cereal. And I do that at the very, very end to more of my own sound impressions. Did I hear what I thought I heard? And so I adjusted it to where and if you haven't played with it or saw what MSEB Magic 8 Ball EQ does, it does it in a really unique way. It's more of a parametric EQ based on sound impression. So if the first slider is like, do you want it warmer or darker? And I really loved how dark and warm this is, but I just like, okay, well, what happened if I put it slightly to a less dark treble? And not a lot, just a little. Pumped up the sub bass and tightened up the mid bass, got rid of a bit of a mid bass. And then you could tell, okay, well, the serial started coming alive more of my preferred tuning, where it was slightly less dark. I like warm and darker treble. I just, maybe for me, not like it as dark as this is. But I could adjust it to where it got to my really, really happy place, which leaves me in a huge conundrum whether I keep these and just when I want to listen to it, just hit the Penon serial tab for my saved EQ tuning, or do I let them go to somebody who, sell them off to somebody who would really, really appreciate the way they are without being touched? And I think I'm finding myself doing that more and more. It's just being able to pick up a set without worrying about what source I'm at or where I'm on. But it's not easy to find sets that we like that do everything that we want it to do. And that's pretty cool in the fact that we can have different sets for different moods, even music that we choose at that time to listen to. Some comparisons. So, cheapy KZ, ZVX, how they compare to a 3DD Penon versus a single DD. Well, the ZVX hits harder, my preferred tuning. Nowhere near the vocal smoothness. Nothing is going to beat the serial for vocals that I have heard in an organic way. Even the U12Ts. When I first listened to the serial, I thought they had a lot of the U12T soul, but not the technicalities that makes the U12T, the 64 audio, do what it does. It's special sauce. It's missing all of that, but it sounded the way it presented musically. It sounds silly when I say that, but that's true. So ZVX, I ended up putting a little filter on the nozzle, just knocking it down the highs a little bit. I really love the way the tuning of this one. It goes lower, hits harder. More engaging highs, better stage, instruments are more lively in a $20 IEM. But again, that has to do with my tuning that I prefer. The second thing I threw on was the EA 500, the SimGot. These things fit into my ears so much better than the serial does. Even the and again, that's very subjective, right? But when I put these in my ears, they just feel like they are meant to go there. Where the serials, even with the right tips, they just don't do. They're not. They're not super comfy like the Yanyan cannons are for me, or the Zens. Just the shell shape. They're more of a generic, resin shell. But I just find the SimGots or some of the other ones. Now, to be fair, I did my little base mod on here with the half of a high density filter shoved in there with a little filter over top of the vent. Anyway, I showed you guys these before. So it pumps up the sub bass, but it doesn't really change any of the tonality of the EA 500. The sub bass goes way, way, way lower on an EA 500 with the bass mod, but it still hits way, way harder. And it doesn't have as much mid bass bleed as the serials do. So vocals, after A/B comparison, I think the vocals sound more natural on the EA 500, and the stage and instrument separation and technicalities devastate the serial. But the serial's not about being neutral. It's about being properly colored, that you fall in love with its presentation on the vocals. And for that, it cannot be knocked. Number one, for sure. If you're looking for a more neutral set that brings more technicalities, then $80 SimGot EA 500 does that very well. So that's really it for my presentation of that. I wanted to share with you what I thought of the serial. Again, just to sum it up: vocals, fantastic. Bass is more thumpy, thick, and weighty than it is faster and slam. So that's and again, very relaxed high end. It's totally easy to listen to put in your ears and just sit there and enjoy it. And if that is your preferred tuning, then I 100% recommend the Penon serial. It's a very special set for what it does. The Penon house sound is lovely, and just know what you're getting into, and your library. That would be very cool. Thank you again. This is the Tone Deaf Monk, for all you people that have liked and subscribed and watched it to the end. You're a champ. I appreciate it, the love and the support. Thank you very much. Tone Deaf Monk, and I'm out.